I really took off in my career when I set boundaries and I'm like, no, I'm not going to work 60 hours this week because I have a date with my wife that I have to be at. I promised her. And the only reason I come to work is because I'm mentally strong enough from her, right?
Right.
Like if I only did work all day, I have nothing to hang my hat on because there's always problems in construction.
Welcome to Small Business University. I have Josh here. I've seen you quite a bit on LinkedIn over the last couple of years and just really fond of your work and just wanted to bring you on board. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I just really appreciate it and I want to say Happy New Year to you. And like I said, I've been watching for the last couple of years and it's been good. And the last post you kind of made, being really authentic and being really vulnerable
Hmm.
was so refreshing. And to me, it was my favorite post. Do you want to kind of explain a little more about that post to the audience?
Yeah. So over the last year I've gone through like my own mental health journey. I've been in construction for about 10 years and it's trying, when you're early on in your career and you're doing overtime, you're doing whatever it takes because maybe you're single, and you don't have a life and everybody else has a family so they can leave and go pick up kids. Well, I didn't have that. So, work 60 hours, 80 hours a week, didn't matter. But I got burnt out and ended up becoming a stay-at-home dad for a year and a half, 2 years. And in that time, I reflected a lot on how to quiet my soul. Because living in Nashville,
Mm.
you're just stressed by everything, traffic, people, concerts, noise, everything. So, yeah, over the last year and a half, well, after actually over the last 4 years, I've been working on mental health things, but I really had a breakthrough this last year, finding the right medication that helps me just kind of mellow out. Basically, just hormones aren't balanced, so it's hard to manage yourself. So found the right medication, found a low dose that works very well, and it just helps me keep mellow and keep my mind straight, and it doesn't have the side effects that everything else did. So it's been
Oh, it's awesome. It's really brave
Yeah, it's
and
refreshing.
for me, I've done the same thing. So as well as being a business owner for 10 years, had an issue where the business owners didn't see eye to eye, and so we separated. So a lot of stress there, you can imagine.
Yeah,
But also, I'm a veteran and I have PTSD, and so in the combination of we're getting older, right? And we don't have the same testosterone as we did when
yeah,
we were young lads, right? So
yeah.
I kind of struggle with all those things. And it's like, okay, so what do I do? And so I did take a pause and I did take a sabbatical from work. And I did look into taking T shots and finding stuff for anxiety and depression. Um,
Hmm.
because yeah, maybe I'm not out in the field as much, but the mental stress, I mean, that's real. And
Oh
then you
yeah,
combine it with your friends, which, I feel like your only friends are your colleagues that you work with, basically,
yeah,
right? And
right.
your family, it's super stressful because you're trying to do the right things at all the times. And then you feel like you're guilty because you're sacrificing all your time and you don't get
Hmm.
to spend it with the person you love the most, your wife and your kids, right? And
Right,
so
the people
all
you
that.
choose. Yeah.
Right. And unfortunately, in our lives, who sees the worst side of us sometimes is our wives, right? And our kids.
Hmm.
You don't want to blow up in front of the client or your employees, but you'll come home and, there's a toy on the floor, or your wife didn't cook dinner early enough, or whatever it is, right? It's like you lose it. And it's like, that's not the person I want her or them to see, but
Right.
that's real. It's
Hmm.
real, and it's like, so how do you take care of it? So I'm really glad, uh,
Yeah.
like you and some others are being vulnerable and saying the truth, because that's what it is. If we talk about it and fix it, that's what's really going to fix it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been lucky to, over the platform, to have had people just naturally kind of want to follow and learn, business tips and things like that. But at the same time, it's like I want to normalize it. Like you don't just become really successful and have become a CFO or a CEO or own a business or, scale anything um, without having those struggles. And so just because you're in leadership doesn't mean you have to lead from um, an illusion that there's no
Mm.
problems. Like most people that are in leadership go through a divorce. They go through business problems like you were talking about with business partners and everything like that. So if we talk about it, it makes it more normal. So when younger people or people, not even young people, anybody that gets into the position or they're working
Right.
toward it, they can work through those problems before they get there so they don't run into the same problems we did.
Right. The illusion of, what'd you say? The illusion of being perfect, or
Man, I don't even
I'll
know.
have to go
I
back and
just
refer
said,
that, but what you said that, I mean, like perfect, like the illusion, and that's the problem is that's not being authentic. That's not being real. And at some point, it's okay to say I need help, right? It's
yeah.
okay to say those things. And I've been around. Again, I'm a veteran, like as I told you, but a lot of my army buddies, like they just refuse to get that help. Like I'm big, I'm
Mhm.
strong, and it's like you finally have to when they finally break down, right? It's only when they get to like their the valley, right? When the
Yeah.
whole world's going against them and they're getting divorced, or like I need some help. It's like there you go. You're finally admitting to yourself that you need help, and if
Right.
you and I could be guys to be like, hey, before you get there. But
Hmm.
unfortunately, I think for most people, they have to kind of reach rock bottom, or maybe not rock bottom, but they have to, hit some valleys to go, ooh, I have to change what I have to do
Yeah.
day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And something like I've been through that before. When I was younger, I did get divorced when I was 23. And now what I've learned from that is I make my marriage now intentional. Everything I do now is more intentional. Whenever I build something for another company, whenever I'm giving them advice strategically or with my wife, like go to events. Like we're going to a marriage retreat in well, two this year. We try to do one a year because nobody teaches like I didn't go to college to be married. I went to college to do
Right.
electrical. So and I didn't, I have to learn that stuff and so I always keep fresh and keep that perspective and put in effort. And I think that's what goes further than anything. I don't want to hit a point where my wife's like, "Well, I just give up because whatever." And I don't think she ever would. She's an amazing woman, but a lot of people will go through that struggle of is this even worth it? And if you always
Right.
put intentionality first, you're never going to wonder, is it worth it? You're always going to think like, oh, I just need to do these things and go back to this and we need to talk about these things and you'll always find that because you'll meet the right people along the way, you'll find that inner strength and fire to keep persevering.
Awesome. Man, that's awesome. And the way I've always kind of worded it was, you say intentionality, and
Hmm.
I say just caring, right? If you
Hmm.
care, you're going to have the intentionality, care to be safe. You're going to care to do these things. You're going to care for your wife. You're going to care for yourself, all these different things,
Hmm.
right? And so I think, yeah, I think that's really the true success.
Hmm.
Just being a robot and trying to do all the things that it's on the checklist, to
Right.
me, that's not success anymore. If along the way you abandon your wife and kids, you abandon your faith, you abandon everything else that you say on paper I'm
Hmm.
a Christian, or you say on paper I'm a husband, but are you really being any of those things sometimes?
Right.
Unless you really put in the work, right? And that's
Hmm.
typically first, not okay, I've worked 60 hours, I've got a 2 hour window to spend with you, honey. Like that's not how it goes. And
Yeah.
I think in your 20s and early 30s that we think that's the way it's supposed to be because maybe our fathers did it or colleagues we see do it. And I just want to just say that's not it. That's not the
Yeah.
way to win.
Yeah. Yeah, and even though like you said like maybe that's how we saw it. I didn't see it that way, but it felt like that's what was required of me
Okay.
when I was early in my career. I had to prove myself and stand out among everybody, but I really took off in my career when I set boundaries and I'm like, no, I'm not gonna work 60 hours this week because I have a date with my wife that I have to be at. I promised her. And the only reason I come to work is because I'm mentally strong enough from her, right?
Right.
Like if I only did work all day, I have nothing to hang my hat on because there's always problems in construction. So I don't, yeah,
There's never not,
like,
right? There's never
like
not.
if I got my worth out of a construction project, I'd probably have a mental breakdown because I'm
Right.
constant like there's always something that's going wrong. Even if you plan it to be perfect, somebody's gonna not execute that plan because it
Right.
hasn't been communicated perfectly.
Absolutely.
So
Man, I think we've had our fair share. So how long you been in the construction industry then?
10, going on 11 years now.
7 years. Okay. I got in out of college in '06, so just shy of 18 years between oil and gas and construction. And
Yeah.
this
And you've been put to the ringer.
yeah. Yeah, you kind of go like, well, I want to make this money. I want to do these things. And now that I'm in my 40s, it's like, wow, like, how much weight did I gain? How much hair did I lose?
Hmm.
How much time did I miss, seeing my kiddos? All those things. And I'll never get those
Hmm.
things back. I just won't.
Exactly.
So I'm
I,
glad you're able to kind of get it a little sooner. I mean,
yeah,
that's awesome. That's
thank
super
you.
awesome.
Yeah, we waited to have kids till I was 32, 31. So it's like, we were financially stable. We knew where we wanted to be. And
Mm,
then now, like, I'm confident in who I am instead of like trying to prove myself to everybody. So it makes being a dad a lot easier.
awesome. So let me ask you a question then. What are your goals for the next year, 5, 10 then for yourself and your family?
Yeah, for this year specifically, I want to grow my mental fortitude. I want to teach my son he's going from 2 to 3 this year, and our daughter who's 4 months going on 1 year. I want to be here for them because their first years are the most important. So although I'm going to help businesses, I'm trying to limit my availability outwardly. So I only take 4 clients at a time, which I see a lot of CFOs, they'll take up to 6 or 18 to 20 because it's about like, hey, I'm just going to read your numbers, get all this stuff and give it to you and throw it at you. But if I can dedicate a good amount of time to every single person and help them through things, like it's not just about numbers. It's I don't know who to reach out to about a contract. Well, I'll help you read it. I'll explain what I know. That way you don't have to pay your lawyer for all of that, and I'll mark up red flags that you want to talk to them about. Right? We want to make your business scalable, so let's put in some processes that work for the field that they'll actually do and for the office. So that way when you hire a project manager, you don't have to train them yourself. Right? I want to be able to have time to do those things instead of just taking on volume. It's not about money, it's just about helping people have their dream and be able to go home at night. So that's kind of my favorite thing is helping them realize like, wow, you don't have to be stressed because look at where we are with your cash flow. We know in 10 weeks you are going to have a problem. Now you don't because we fixed that. We figured it out. We got some funding in the gap and we're good to go.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to know in 10 weeks you're going to be out of money as opposed
Yep.
to 2 weeks before when you're trying to scramble paying payroll, right? So
Yep. You're like, well, how do I
knowing
bill
weeks in advance
quick?
is huge.
Right. Well, yeah, and then I see a lot of businesses just like sacrifice. They're like, "Hey, I'm putting in this bill right now. I know it's out of sequence, but like I need to be paid." And so they sacrifice and give a discount, and then they're losing all this money just to stay in business. It's like you don't have to live that way. You don't have to be on the phone at 9 o'clock at night trying to collect payment just to pay your people in 2 days.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I did with my construction business. And we got it started in 2015, kind of after the
Hmm.
the oil and gas bust and into 14. Good time to start.
Yeah.
But at the time, I had a lot of money saved up as a consultant, and it was a good time to do it. But I did all those things early on. I can't tell you how many times I sacrificed my pay. I didn't pay myself for the first year. I had enough
Yeah.
money in the bank, a little over 100 grand, and I was like, I'll get my money when I can. Well, after a year, and I didn't change the way I lived as a as a drilling consultant to just an entrepreneur trying to survive. The money
Yeah.
went quick, and then you're making those deals, and the deals are never good for you. You as a business owner.
Right.
I did that for 10 years, and I realized that I've learned so much, and this is where I think like why I wanted to connect with you because I want to be able to serve others now. I want to
Hmm.
be able to teach people like there's so many different ways to do this, and
There
there's so
are.
many better ways to do it. Like,
Yeah.
and that's where I think I can be helpful for guys like you, like what you're doing.
Yeah, yeah. And to me, what I've realized is like there's not one way to do anything. There's not one way to manage your cash flow, but there's 10 ways that are very effective, and there's 100,000 ways that aren't. So let's just focus on one of the ways that does work. And if you learn other ways along the way, perfect. If you don't, like at least you have a good foundation and you can survive. And you're not, and when I say survive, I don't mean like dreading it. Because every business I
Uh,
work with, it's the same as what you just said. Like they don't take a paycheck their first year or two, and then pretty soon it's just a habit. They're like, well, my pay is the profit in the company. Like that's not pay. And in one, I do a lot of
it's
statistics
true.
research. So many companies go out of business from one bad project, and that's all your profit.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely. Usually it is. Let's say our client, owes you, quarter million to $1 million and they don't pay.
yep,
And you're like, well, I want to pay my vendor, and somehow you finagle to pay them, but you don't pay yourself, right?
yep,
And it's like you did all this hard work, and it's like, well, I have to survive. I'm like, man,
yep.
there's just so many different ways of handling it. And the mental stress that you go through in order to do that is unbelievable. And
Yeah.
sometimes you don't even know now. Like for me, it was my blood pressure. Like when I had a breakdown a year ago, and we had a client just like that. They refused payment, and we had to go to mediation and arbitration, all the fun stuff, right?
Mm.
Get
Oh,
lawyers
yeah.
involved. I mean, you can imagine. So it's not
Yep.
just the $1 million they didn't pay; it's the $100,000 extra you're paying in order to get paid, right? So all these
Yep.
things add up, and you don't have the money, and and over time, like my blood pressure starts shooting up,
Hmm.
140 over 90, 150 over 100, 160, and it got to a point where I got to
Hmm.
180 over 115, and it's like you
Jeez.
have to go to the ER right now, and it's like it wasn't
Jeez.
overnight, but it was accumulation of all these bad
Yeah.
decisions that I was making, of not fixing my mental health, or maybe making a better business decision to kind of get through it. But it was just tough. It's really tough.
Yeah.
I think a lot of business owners actually go through that.
Yeah. It really, like what we're all talking about, it all comes down to discipline. And one thing with the mental health that really bothers me is some people are so good at manipulating you into thinking like, well, this is our business relationship. Like, do you care more about money than you do our business relationship? And it's like, how messed up is it that I'm trying to feed my employees' families and have a little bit extra for me to pay myself so I can afford things and stay in business to do this again with you? But you're gonna make it about the business relationship? Like that it's so twisted and I hate hearing that because it's
Yeah.
it's like, okay, well you clearly are not practicing what you preach. You don't care about
Oh,
me. You don't care about not even just me. You don't care about any of these people downstream from me that need to be paid.
I would even say even further. It's not even they don't care, is that they are intentionally screwing.
Yeah.
Let's be real, right? And
Yeah.
again, like the squeaky wheel sometimes will get paid first. Like you know how it goes. Like even vendors that you have, it's like, all right, well, it's the same way. But
Hmm.
what I find in businesses is very interesting is like just like what you said, like, hey, you're talking to a project manager, hey, let's get paid. But what I find in like a lot of companies, like, go ahead and send that lien, right? Go ahead and send a notice, right? That's
Hmm.
going to AR or AP, right? And you're dealing with a controller or a CFO. It has nothing to do with a project. Like, so even like, well, I don't want to ruin that relationship. Sometimes companies are so big, they don't even talk. They don't care that guy's
Yeah,
caring
they
about
don't
the
even
project.
know.
They don't even know. So it's like,
Yeah.
I get it when you're dealing with maybe the small GC who's, is wearing multiple hats. But a lot of people work for larger GCs where they don't have time to worry about someone else's, they don't need to piss in
Hmm.
there and their sandbox. They're dealing with their own thing. So
Hmm.
don't worry about ruining the relationship. Fix it.
Yeah.
Be friends with the controller. Know who the CFO is for the company. Build
Yeah.
that relationship too, not just with the project manager, but build it with that CFO because that matters.
Yeah, yeah, and there's tons of ways to go around. You're gonna send a legal notice regardless, right? Like if I'm delayed on a project, they're gonna send one to me.
Can we just
So
say that should be normal business practices?
it is.
It
It's
should be,
disciplined.
if day 30 and they don't have paid, you send a lien notice. Like that needs to be common day everything
Mhm.
practice. Like we have to stop not doing that because
Right.
that's do we not get one when we're late on a credit card where we miss a payment? Sometimes on an accident, right? But
Hmm.
you get a notice, don't you? Well, it's the
Right.
same thing in business. What makes it any difference? It should be more important.
Yeah.
It's
Do
your
you not
money.
want to do you not want to go to the dealership your friend works at because the bank sent you a notice of intent to repo your car? Like,
Right.
no. Like I still care about my friend. I just it's my fault. It's my problem. And it's embarrassing, but it's like, it's mine, you know?
I
I
think we
think,
should normalize it not being embarrassing if someone doesn't pay you.
yeah, and it's a good way to look at it that I've thought is shame on them for putting me in the position that I have to do this. Like, and then talk to them before. Give them a quick phone call. Hey, this isn't happening. If you can't handle it today, tomorrow, this is what's happening. And I have to, like, I just have to move on and do it. And it's about the discipline of it doesn't matter who it is, it doesn't matter what it is. This is the process that I have to physically do in the legal system to maintain my rights to everything. And it's not, again, that's why I say shame on them for putting me in the position I have to maintain the rights to get paid to do something I've already done
Right.
that they told me to do. The worst
100%.
is pay when paid and pay if paid.
Ugh.
As a subcontractor my whole career, I always think like, Mr. GC, why did you tell me to do this change order? If I'm going to have to eat the cost of trusting you in written notice and you didn't get paid and now I'm not going to get paid because I trusted you, shouldn't you have vetted the client? Shouldn't you have vetted all of this stuff? And
Right.
and then they put in these clauses where, or in this expectation, you can't talk to the client, you can't do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, if I can't do any of that, I'm going to hold you accountable because you're tying my hands. I can't do anything except go after you. So here you go.
Absolutely.
That was a lot. Sorry.
No, it is. I think we could definitely dive into that further. I just look at it, but ultimately comes to this is you need to decide whether you need to fire that client and let your competitors deal with it.
Oh yeah, yeah,
At the end of the day, is it worth it all if you're not getting paid for weeks or months at a time? You
yeah,
making deals to get paid sooner, maybe say I'll take 1% off or 5% off or 10% off or whatever it is, right? So they'll pay you, right? I mean,
yeah.
screw that. Let your competitors deal with that client and go find a new relationship. Does it suck? Yeah, it sucks. It super
Mhm.
sucks. But you know what the alternative is, right? So
Right. Out of business.
yeah, you'll be out of business. I think
Yeah.
that's really
Selling your house to afford bankruptcy,
right. Oh my
which
God.
isn't fair. Like that's so messed up. And yeah, the industry, it's not just our industry, it's every industry.
No,
But, at the end of the day, it's like you said, let's find the people that resonate with us that actually want to build things. And if they don't, like, I'll charge you 50% more. I don't care. If you win the job, great. I know if I only get paid 90% of my 50% more, I'm still making profit. I don't care.
right.
But
That's
if you don't
awesome.
win jobs ever again, like, I also don't care because you're a bad business owner and you're not responsible enough to have the authority to do this.
Absolutely. No, I just wish that I would probably say, what would you say the number is percentage wise? People who actually own a business and people who, are within a business, right? Or would you say maybe 5 or 10% have maybe been an owner, in the construction world? I mean,
In
it's
the
probably
world,
a
oh man,
tiny
I'd
number.
say even less. I mean, you have to think there's so many, temp laborers and different things.
And large
Um,
companies who work there and never leave, right? They'll be the
yeah,
laborer and they'll come all the way to be a superintendent, right? In over 20
yeah,
years.
yeah, and
So a lot of these guys don't know what it's like to put your own money and time on the line,
yeah,
right? And they just expect it to be like a normal business. It's kind of I kind of wish it was the other way around. Then they
yeah,
learn what it's like to put skin in the game.
yeah. As a project manager, my whole career, I always tried to put other people, like the subcontractors. If I ever got a notice like that, I would like CC whoever needed to go to, and I would go talk to that person and make it a priority. But until I really dove into the financial aspect and becoming a CFO, looking at a holistic, I didn't understand cash flow like I thought I did as a project manager. So, I did my part. I overbilled or made sure that we're like covering all of our costs
Right.
and then have a little extra to to like recoup your overhead and gain your
Sure.
profit as you go along. But I didn't see that not collecting that for 60 days, how big of a deal that was. It doesn't matter if it's a $200 million company or a $1 billion company, because it just amplifies the problem and you have to have more people chasing it.
That's
Um,
right.
but what I've seen is, in my experience anyway, it's like 1 out of 10 has to have a legal notice. That's normal for notice of non-payment or something like that,
Sure.
delay payment. 1 out of 10 of those, so 1 out of 100 projects actually have legal implications. Maybe they go to litigation, maybe they just go to mediation or something else. But if you have a 1 out of 100, if you're a small GC, you're probably doing 30 projects a year. So in 3 years, you're probably going to run into it. So it's about that discipline of, we're going to do everything the right way. We're going to vet people. And yeah, relationships go a long way, but don't strain them to ruin other people.
But just kind of like we said, it's even with your relationship with your business and with your wife, you had boundaries. And setting those boundaries, this is full circle now, with your clients is important too. You have to communicate just as effectively to them. Say, this is what we got to have
Mhm.
set in the contract. Hey, instead of like waiting a week after you should get paid, you do a week before.
Mhm.
Hey, because it might take a week to process it or whatever it is, right? Like
Yep.
doing all these things, we're afraid to offend them or whatever. But we
Yep.
need to set the boundaries perfectly. You do that with your kids. Like we don't wait for your kid to go halfway across the street before you tell them don't do it. You know what I mean? You do it
Yeah.
before. Like same
Yep.
thing is with grown men and women. Like you have to tell them what your boundaries are, right?
Yep. And you have to keep consistent with them.
Mm.
Speaking of like CFOs and everybody else getting involved, the one thing that I hate the most is when it's a company that's so big, they have processes, which is great. You want to scale. But then they say like, "Oh, well, we didn't pay you this like last Friday and it's Monday." And they're like, "Well, we only process checks on Friday." Like, I don't think you understand the legal implications that you're about to endure because you're telling me you're not going to pay me until Friday. Like, I'm going to make your life horrible because that's not reasonable.
Yeah, the one thing I saw a lot of, especially in oil and gas, was we only cut checks once a month now.
Oh God, that would be
And it's
stupid.
like, are you kidding me? So you could literally be like a couple days late. You have to wait
Yeah.
another full 30 days.
Yep.
Just stuff like that. Like I get that they're also probably in cash flow situation too, but holy cow, some of these tactics were just
Yeah.
unreasonable.
And when the PM goes on vacation and they just don't happen to check the box to approve it, like, how is that my fault? I did everything, and I'm now asking you for the payment that everybody agreed on. They agreed to the payment, so
Uh,
why don't you pay it now? They didn't check the box.
that's so funny. So for
Yeah.
this year coming up, what is your hope that you can help people like, in your network and now including my network that they hope they learn ultimately?
Yeah, the biggest thing I've started already this year is I put out a free cash flow calculator. And it's not perfect. It's not it's in Excel, right? So everything's kind of manual, but it's that stopgap. People know they have a problem, but they don't know where. So it helps you identify your overhead, your percentage. It helps you identify your people you have to pay if the project isn't working anyway. Like you have superintendents, you can't just say, "Hey, I don't have a project, just sit at home until I do," to make sure you pay them. So that's included in your overhead if they're not working. And
Right.
then it goes through all of your project expenses and everything. And it's free. Like people can download it because I think people need to have that ability and they don't have like I maybe I'm not the most advanced at Excel, but I'm pretty good at it. I made this in about 45 minutes and business owners that I've seen don't have time to do that. They don't have the brain power to do it. But if they have 10 minutes or I'll say longer than that, probably an hour at the end of the day
Yeah.
or on a weekend when they're stressed, they can look at it and be like, "Oh crap, I don't know how to handle these situations." And I just want to like help people identify those. If you want to work with me, great. I only take 4 people at a time though. So this is my way of just helping you identify you have a problem and I can put you in touch with the right people. But I just want people to to start to see things before they happen. Being blindsided by cash on hand or anything is just the worst feeling.
It
It's
really,
like sinking and you can't do anything about it. I hated feeling like that
yeah, because
on a
access to other
project.
capital is pretty tough these days, right? So it's not like you
Yeah.
can pull it out unless it's on your own personal bank, right? Which business owners have done that before. Where like, I'll just
Yeah.
put my own savings into it and make
Yeah.
payroll or pay this bill. It's like, whoa, you had a limited liability cover you for a reason, right?
Right.
We have to manage it better, of course, but Ooh,
Right.
just dangerous slope that a lot of business owners feel they're responsible for doing, you know. There's just
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I just feel bad for owners that they're putting their heart and soul into this. They're doing it because they don't want to work for a big company. They want to provide better quality and better value and actually hands-on train people. And the way we treat those small businesses is like, oh, well, you're not worth the ground that I walk on. So I'm going to take advantage of you or I'm going to push you around because you don't have a legal person on retainer
we
like
know you
I
don't
do.
have the money to come after us. We know because
Right. I
right,
hated hearing that. It's like, okay, well, most of the things I have to do is free and you can waste your you can waste your retainer with that guy. I don't care.
right.
I'll do it for you
No,
in
I just
10
really
minutes.
appreciate what you've done, and there needs to be a couple more guys like that do that just honestly serve with nothing in return, like with no expectation in return. You know, it's a very Christian value too, as well. Just that I want to be able to serve others. I'm glad you're able to do it at right now, and you know those kids so young. Oh, it's so awesome. I look at my career, and I too was married young, and I had two kids with the previous my previous wife, but
Mm,
I wasn't there every day, and I saw now they're in their 20s. You know,
yeah.
it did affect them. It really did. And there was times
Yeah.
where they hated me because I wasn't there. And my daughter is now with my current wife. It's like I'm gonna make sure I don't make the same mistake twice, and I'll be there for them, see their birthdays,
Right.
Christmases, and just normal. Hey, I'll take you to the dentist on Tuesday day. You know, like that's just as important as everything else, is just being there. So for me,
Right.
you know, I want to be able to serve, and I'm really glad that you are doing this. I'm watching you. I'm a big fan, and I'll continue to watch you. And I love all your content.
I appreciate it, man. And I don't want to act like I'm here and I know everything either. Like I for the longest time I didn't want kids. And I guess I'm on record saying this now. But something changed in me. I met my wife and I knew that she was the right person. She was going to be a great mom. And now that I have kids, like I'm fully invested in them because the part of the reason I even went on like a sabbatical is I could pour into people, but nowadays people are so transactional. I pour into a journeyman or a foreman or a assistant project manager, whoever, and then they leave in 6 months because the company won't pay them. And that's a different conversation. But my kids, I can pour into them every day, and sure, one day they'll leave, but at least I can make them exposed to what great values are, and I can help them develop. And if they choose to wander away from that, that's up to them. But I'm going to do my best to do it now. And I haven't heard a lot of stories like yours where they maybe resented you a little bit or were upset with you a little bit. I haven't heard a ton of those because I've been in my single group friends for so
Mhm.
long and people get married, have kids, move on. But it I guess my driving factor isn't I don't want to do that. It's more like I have a responsibility to them. They have nobody else in this world.
That's
And
right.
I chose to have them. I wanted to have them. Even if I didn't want to have them, I did. And it's my responsibility to take care of them.
No, it's awesome, and I think it's the most admirable thing a man can do. You know, is be there for their kids and wives and all those.
Yeah.
So no, I really appreciate it, man. That's a really good way of kind of ending this. Is I really appreciate the intentionality and the care that you have. You know, and you're pouring into
Yeah.
everything. So just keep that up, man. And like I said, you
Thank
inspire
you.
me as well to do those things. So I just want to thank you for coming on. Is there anything else you want to say before we head out?
No, I don't want to pitch myself. Like people can find me if they want to find me. At the end
Go
of
to
the
my
day, it's
website, check
just
this out, and here's my free Excel spreadsheet on cash flow. No? Okay.
yeah,
I'll do it for
I
you.
mean, if you wanna follow me, great. If you don't, like, I get it. Like, I don't follow everybody that everybody else trends to because I don't. There's enough consumerism in my life. I don't wanna be on LinkedIn more than I absolutely have to be.
Well,
Um,
like I said, for me, I don't think it is like competition or anything. I'm looking at just like men helping men, and that's why I wanted to bring you on, and
yeah, no, I
I really, really
appreciate that.
appreciate that, man.
And I wish I had a better answer to end the call
I think
than
that's the
like
best answer, to be honest. You
whatever.
know,
Yeah. I'm just a
Uh,
normal person. Like I get a lot of DMs that are like, "Hey, I've seen your content and I appreciate it." And I love that. It really encourages me and lights my fire. It keeps me going because some days I'm like, I really don't want to record today. But at
Right,
the same time, it's like I'm just a normal guy. Like I went to
right,
church yesterday. I'm going to Walmart later today to get groceries. I wear
right.
sweatpants. I don't wear a suit and tie. I don't sit in an office. I don't drive a Mercedes. I drive a $15,000 car because like I'm just normal. I live on a farm in the middle of Arkansas. And I
That's
want to normalize that. Like
right,
the illusion of what LinkedIn is, it looks professional and that's great. And I can be professional, but at the same time, like I'm just like everybody else out there. Anybody can do what I've done. It's not so complicated that only I can ever do it. So maybe that's what I want to end with is if
no, that's awesome.
2025,
That's
if
what
you
it
want to
is.
do something, it's doable.
No, that's what it is. I think it's what we have to do is bring everyone up and not try to trash anyone down, whether they have a Mercedes or not, or whether they have a farm or not, or whether they want inspire to be a fractional CEO one day. Like we
Hmm.
all have to start somewhere. We all have to be somewhere. I just think that it's intentionality behind of why you're doing it. Are you only doing it to get likes? But are you really trying to like serve someone, like really help them out? Because I think there's the reason behind of why people want to do things. And my hope is like you is I just really want to serve someone like what I went through and just the hurt I went through. I just hope that
Hmm.
no one else feels that way, like ever. And they will.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. But if I can do a couple things that honestly helps them, I don't want anything in return. I just want to help them. And I think that's kind of place where I'm in my life. And whether it's my Christian life or my business life, they're all kind of colliding right now. It's like they can be one, and they are, and that's what I'm hoping that I can do. And I just see the I like the word intentionality that you have as well. It just feels so authentic. That's why, again, I reached out.
No, I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I guess my last words of advice would be begin with the end in mind. Think of on your deathbed, on my deathbed, whenever I am dying, I want to look back at my life, and be a good dad. I want to be a good friend. I want to be a good husband. I want to be a follower of Christ. I want to do these things. And the only way I get to that point is if I do it now. I can't claim it then and not do it every day because being a good dad isn't one activity. It's not going to one dance recital or one baseball game. It's trying to go to every baseball game. It's trying to be at every dance recital.
Man, that's good. That's deep. I like that one.
It's Stephen Covey. I can't take that.
Oh, okay. But that's
I
what it
just
is, I
repeat
feel,
stuff
for
like
sure.
like everybody in life. I just repeat stuff.
No, for sure. I don't know if I think everything's been probably done before, right? If we're being really real, it's just trying to collect it all and being able to utilize it at the right time.
Hmm.
It is.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me again. It's been
Yeah.
fun. And just off the cuff conversation. It's
Well, good.
nothing scripted. I don't know how to respond to half these things all the time.
All right. And I'm very unscripted and I just want to, for me, I just want to have a conversation. So I'm really glad. And you're definitely the first one this year for me. I was trying to get some done during the holiday. I figured maybe some people have some time off and for my full-time job. I didn't do much work. I'm in sales, so it's like no one wants to be sold crap, during the holidays. It's like
Yeah.
if you're gonna build relationships, you don't want to be like on Christmas Eve, like, hey, you want to buy from me? Like, that's how you start a
Hey,
relationship.
that one present you're missing under the tree.
Yeah, is something for my company. It's like,
Yeah.
no, no, let's give people time off when they want off.
Yeah.
They'll be sold the other, 50, freaking weeks out of the year or whatever it is, right? So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, that's funny.
nice. So that's as for me as I'm learning this stuff.
Mhm.
Lots of mistakes already with the podcast. Or I'm kind of struggling with the word podcast. I think more of like just audio only, but I've heard the word
Yeah.
vodcast for like video podcast. I've heard that lately.
Yeah.
It kind of makes more sense because, but I'm trying to do both. Is I'm trying to turn the audio and do it on the podcast as well. So just trying
Yeah.
to figure out, what audience I want to go to and who I want to be able to talk to and
Yeah.
just try to figure it all out. Kind of like what you're doing. I think what you're doing is pretty good too, but I'm not sure what other platforms you're on as well. But
Yeah, I've been working on like Instagram or not Instagram, sorry, TikTok. Um,
TikTok, you are on TikTok. Okay.
yeah, a
Are you
lot of my
getting any traction
longs.
there?
Yeah, so I do like long form content, which is over 3 minutes on YouTube. And then
Okay.
I realized I say really interesting things that like fire people up, and everybody agrees with them. Like you should be paid net 30, like we talked about.
Right.
Um, but I pull those out and I don't just like make a short out of it. I actually re-record a short out of it and get straight to the point within 15, 30 seconds. And that's been key. Like
Okay.
I really don't like to take long form content and just chop it up because there's so much context missing. It takes so long to get to the point. Um,
Okay,
I've
because what I'm doing now is so I'm using 4 different platforms. I'm doing the Apple Podcasts, the YouTube,
Yeah,
Instagram, obviously for the business part, but then I use Instagram and because my daughter's on Instagram and she helped me get an account and
yeah,
it's so funny. Even her friends are following me. Like, this is weird that like teenage kids, but they're like, Dad, they like you. You're fun, Dad. I'm like, whatever. But that's probably majority of the my audience on Instagram. But it's like, I understand that's like the next form coming up. But
yeah,
I am just taking snippets, using Opus and some other forms
yeah,
to
yeah.
do 30 or sorry, 60-second clips. But that makes sense because a lot of times you don't get straight to the point in long form. That's a good point.
Yeah, so like doing a podcast like this, it's great to take a couple snips because it like shows a conversation back and forth if we hit a
Right.
point really good. But when it comes to like if I'm just doing talking to myself, I've literally taken a paragraph worth of stuff that I put in a long form and I'm like, I could have said this in 2 sentence or 10 seconds and then it gets really good.
Right.
Um, and
Okay.
then at the end of the day, it's just about visibility. I don't really care about going viral, but I do understand that algorithms push things that people
Right.
watch longer. And if you cut it off at 15 seconds and you keep it interesting enough at the first, like they won't be able to swipe away
Right.
until
They're
it's
they're they're almost there. They're about
13.
ready to flip that thumb, right?
Right. So I try to make sure they watch 90% of it and
Right.
they might not be able to switch it in time. So I'm trying
Right.
to beat the algorithm. I'm not
And
trying
then learning
to.
about formats because understanding like you wanted something more professional on LinkedIn, but on like Instagram or TikTok, you have to be flashy. It's got to be different color and it's
Yeah.
the captions like it's like, oh, I didn't even know this crap. So I'm learning
Mhm.
quite a bit, trying to get all this going. But it's something I have a passion for now, and I really just
Yeah.
want to be able to do. So
Yeah,
uh,
it's fun, man. Like YouTube, it's a great I think of them as like evergreen is what I've always heard. It's a digital asset. Once you build it once, it's there forever.
mm,
Same with Apple Podcasts and Spotify, but YouTube is searched through like it's owned by Google, so it's searched through Google. So if anybody ever says cash flow and construction, my stuff is going to come through because it's not like a LinkedIn post from 3 years ago or even last week that got buried. Nobody finds those
Is
things
that weird
unless
that
they're
sometimes like you think like this one's good, this one's gonna kill nothing, and then the
yeah.
weird one that you do off the cusp was like you get 10,000, likes.
Yeah. Oh
How is
man,
this
don't even
possible?
well, we got a van and I posted about the van of like I sacrificed my manhood and like making a joke about it.
Mhm.
And I thought it was just gonna be like my close friends on LinkedIn that are like,
Sure.
this is funny, it's on a Sunday, whatever. No, it blew up to like 70,000 people started seeing it and like 500 comments and 4,000 likes. And I'm like, it's just a van, dude. It's not even about cash flow. It's not even about something I can help with.
But they understand who you are and they're following your content, and then you put in a real moment in life
Yeah.
that a lot of people can relate to, and it's just like I have the same van, you know what I mean? And it's just like
Oh
I feel
yeah.
the same way, and I've always wanted to say this, and it's just fun. Sometimes that's
Yeah.
what happens, right? So
I didn't realize how polarizing a van was. So many people are like, you should have got a Honda. And I'm like, yeah, I looked at Honda, but I didn't want to pay $10,000 more
right.
for less features.
Yeah, thanks for telling me how to spend my money. Appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, like, oh wait. Well, see, if I wanted to be another 20,000 in debt, I would have.
Right. But I was being,
Um, yeah, if you
responsible.
listen to the world, they're gonna tell you to buy the newest truck. Like, yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to buy a brand new Raptor.
What, 80, 90, $100,000 trucks now? Like, how
It's
is this even
nuts.
possible now?
It's nuts. Yeah, that's what. I'm also old school. Like I like to tinker. So for the last 4 years, I've had a '09 Ram that I just played with because it was fun and it was cheap to fix. Um,
I sold
but
my '04 Silverado. I had it for 13 years. It was paid off in 5 and
yeah,
gave it to my kids and it's
yeah,
fun, but it's like, man, would I do anything to have that car back?
yeah. Now it's trash because the kids have
I
it.
mean, well, yeah, but they had it and then, of course they tore the crap out of it and then they sold it off. So I would love to be able to get it back one day, but I might maybe I'll get something like that where, just get another Tinker truck to, I don't know, just do nothing with
Yeah,
it. Who cares, It's paid
that's
off.
my
Paid off cars
everyday
are
thing.
cool. For the age, or paid off cars are cool.
Yep, yep. I've always been like that. I've never bought a car over $22,000 now.
It's almost hard now. Like I was looking at getting a car for my daughter, and I mean, you got a little ways to go, but I have a 16 or 15 and 14, and just a little just piece of crap car now that you want to be somewhat safe, but you don't want to,
Yeah,
they may destroy it or
you don't want a smart
damage
car.
it.
You want like
10,
a
15
Sentra.
grand is like the car that used to be 4 or 5 grand when we were
Yeah,
kids. So it's like, man, that you just
yep.
it hurts the wallet just looking at it.
Inflation is no joke. Well, and they all have like 250,000 miles on them now.
Right, and
When
that
I was
too.
younger, it's like, oh, that thing has 75. It's almost dead.
No, it's totally different now, and that's what I worry about the kids. So, all
Yeah,
right, bro. Well, I know I gotta go. I know you
you're
probably
good.
too. So I really appreciate this last hour with you. It was fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, stay in touch for sure, bud.
Yeah, definitely. Take care.
All right, thanks, Josh.
See ya.
Bye.